Hi, I'm Dr. Cher, and I want to talk to you again. We're going to talk about self-love. It's been my theme for the month of February. But in particular today, what I'm going to chat about is more self-talk. How do you talk to yourself? Are you talking to yourself in a loving, compassionate way? Or are you speaking to yourself in a pretty nasty, judgy, critical way? A lot of times we're all guilty of it. Our inner voice can be pretty nasty. So let me give you an example. When somebody, as you know, I work with people with weight loss, and when somebody has a setback, which happens, how they speak to themselves can make a big difference. Are they reinforcing a very negative attitude of failure and sort of history repeating itself? Or can they speak to themselves in a way where there's some compassion? Because if somebody has a setback, there's always a reason why. And that negative self-talk is not going to help them. It's just going to keep them stuck in this pattern. So one of the things that can be very helpful, if you find yourself, let's say you're trying to lose weight and you have a day where you go off track, listen to your voice. Listen to how you're talking to yourself. What are you saying? Are you making sweeping statements that are very negative? By sweeping, just like, oh, here you go again. You're never going to get this done. You always mess up. You have no self-control. That inner voice is making these huge generalizations, as opposed to being able to isolate the event, the setback, so to speak, to say, okay, what happened there? Asking yourself questions. What happened? Why did you feel the need to turn to the food? Were you not prepared? Were you upset about something? Was it an old pattern? And that's a much more constructive way of speaking than sort of giving yourself 13 lashes because you messed up. A way that can help to change the pattern, because again, if this is how we've been doing it, it's hard to change it. So first is noticing it. What are you saying to yourself? Secondly, think of how you speak to yourself. Imagine that if you have children, imagine you're speaking to your son or daughter. If you have somebody that you care about, it's a sibling, it's a best friend, it's whoever it is that you know you would speak to in a very sort of compassionate, supportive way. Picture them in your mind's eye as you talk to yourself, and change how you are talking to yourself. Imagine that you are speaking to them, and that will have a very dramatic effect on how you talk to yourself. I know if I was speaking to one of my kids, and if they messed up on something, I'm going to be very supportive, right? That unconditional love, and what happened? Okay, what happened there? And why? What do you think? And work through it with them. I wouldn't say, oh, I can't believe you did that. Like, what's wrong with you? You knew better than that. You always do this. Like, I would never, ever speak to them that way. So why would I ever do that to myself? So again, recognize the patterns, change it, picture somebody else that you care about, and speak to yourself as though you were talking to them. Just imagine it that way. That's very helpful in changing that negative self-talk. The other thing is certain frames, and I'm going to go into a kind of a specific example here, is this whole concept of, I had this discussion just the other day with a client, which is why it has to do with self-talk. But she said to me, she's in more than going to the maintenance phase with her program. And she goes, yeah, I had some cheats, with my food. I had some cheats. And so first things I said to her, I said, let's remove that word from your vocabulary. Because think about the word cheat. What is that? Is a very negative word, potentially, right? It has a lot of, if somebody says I cheated, there's going to be guilt, there's going to be shame. It's a very kind of toxic word. It's going to bring up potentially these very negative, toxic type emotions around what happened. And, so we got talking about this, and I said, how about turning it around? And because she's at the point of doing more maintenance, and part of maintenance, when I'm working with people and gone through the phase of where they want to be, is working with them now and supporting them in developing the habits for the lifestyle. With the lifestyle, long-term lifestyle for health and weight management and whatnot, there needs to be flexibility. And I also talk a lot about the 80-20 rule, where 80% of the time they're eating well, they know what to eat, when to eat, they like their food, it's second nature, they enjoy eating healthy stuff, but they can have some indulgences, or she would say some cheats, right? That's why I don't want it to be. Cheats is a very disempowering word versus coming from a place of being empowered and choosing to have food that is pleasurable. And I did a video 2 weeks ago, it was about pleasure. Like, it's okay to have some foods, to do things that have foods that are considered pleasurable, but make it completely pleasurable. Because when you immerse yourself in the pleasure of the experience, it's actually 10 times more satisfying and you feel fulfilled. It's not going to be the tipping point in opening Pandora's box of more and more kind of treats or more cheats, so to speak. Whereas cheats gives this feeling it's hidden, it's sneaky, it's guilt-ridden. I got to do it fast because I want people to know I'm doing this, even though this person lives alone. It wasn't about other people. Versus saying, you know what, I'm going to have this indulgence, whatever it is, and I'm going to thoroughly enjoy it. I'm going to put on a nice plate. I'm going to take my time. I'm going to honor this. I'm going to own this experience because I am coming from a place of choice. And when you do that, it's a very empowering. The feeling is, it is a form of self-love, having that indulgence. That's okay to do that once in a while. So you feel like, yeah, that felt good. I'm treating myself well. I'm talking to myself well. It's a very positive experience. And the interesting thing is having that means that form of self-love and pleasure means it's not going to feel like, oh, there's this void that you can never quite fill and you keep wanting more and more. You're done. You don't need to keep doing it. And just sort of on a funny note on this, one of my pleasures is with respect to food. Okay, I mean, obviously I'm a healthy eater. I can make a great salad and be thoroughly excited about it. It looks awesome. It's beautiful and tasty. But I'm in Toronto, and there's a pie shop in Kensington Market called Wanda's Pie in the Sky. And of course, I don't go there often, but they have this amazing banana cream pie. And actually, I remember it was one of the, when things started to open up in the early summer, June, or whatever, when patios were opening in Toronto after the first lockdown. And I had to go down into that area. And that was one of my things. I thought, I'm going to go there and I'm going to get a slice of pie and a coffee. I'm going to sit on the patio. It was just warming up outside. And it was a thoroughly enjoyable experience. Am I going to do that all the time? Do I feel the need to eat the whole pie? No. But I mean, it's a way of just making it this like, this is great. Well, anyways, the irony is, a good friend of mine told me she had been at a kind of like one of those sidewalk sales, and she got this book. It's Wanda's Pie in the Sky cookbook. So I actually got myself a copy. Anyways, but again, I'm not going to overdo that. But once in a while, and if you're going to do it, then make it enjoyable. Don't be scoffing down like just crappy food like yucky chocolate bars, stale pastries, things like that. If you're going to do it, just lean in, go for it. Enjoy the experience. And that actually will, and then pay attention to your talking afterwards. Because when you're coming from choice and you're coming from self-love and you choose to indulge, there should be no guilt, there should be no shame. And versus if you go off track with your eating and it's not a very conscious, mindful choice, just be kind to yourself. Because if you're speaking to yourself in a nice way, in a loving way, in a compassionate way, yet an inquisitive way to kind of understand, well, what happened here? Okay, what's really going on? What do we need to change for next time? That is a much more healing way of just talking to yourself than, than raking yourself over the coals and belittling and making very negative comments. Because the worse you feel about yourself, the more you might want to turn to food to make yourself feel better. So it's a catch-22. So pay attention to how you're talking to yourself. And that's it for today. Okay, so take care. Bye.